Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I'm your host this week, Ashwin. I'm joined by Varun, who hasn't been with us for a while because of work schedule and travel and things like that. And DJ is not able to join us this week. So it's just Varun and I. Varun, let me start by just checking in. How have you been? Lots going on in the world of cricket, etc. India just wrapped up a great series against New Zealand. I don't think you and I got to talk about that on the air. So how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good, man. I got to watch a lot of that second test, so that was good. However, every time I left the room, a wicket fell. So in effect, I didn't actually see any wicket, and I had to go back to Hotstar and watch all the highlights properly. But yeah, good test. Good to get into mid-December. Holiday season is coming up. We hope everyone stays safe. I think it's called Omnitron, right? That's the name that's
Isn't
the
that a
name.
transformer? I think that's a
Yeah,
transformer.
yeah, that's a good name for a variant, I think, Transformer. But I hope everyone stays safe. But yeah, excited, man. Lots happening in cricket as well.
Yeah, interestingly, I think DJ and I were talking about this. This may be the first week in a while when we're recording, actually, as there's been no new India cricket since we last recorded, which is so crazy when you think about how we went from IPL straight into World T20, straight into the New Zealand series, etc. But having said that, we're still only about 2 weeks away from the South Africa series. And there's been a lot of chatter and a lot happening. So today we're going to try to cover the squad for the South Africa series, a little bit about the captaincy debates, etc. And then we'll wrap up in our final segment talking a little bit at the Ashes, which is also obviously a very interesting series for India fans to watch because it's hard to pick who you want to win. And I know a lot of people just want both teams to lose. But Varun, since we last spoke, the big news in the world of cricket has been, in the world of India cricket, has been that India has appointed a new 50 over ODI skipper, and that is Rohit Sharma. Talk to me a little about this, right? There's been a lot that happened. Virat stepped down from the T20 captaincy role himself, didn't voluntarily step down, it seems like, from the 50 over role. But then the BCCI state made a statement, and Ganguly has come out since. And just talk to me through your reaction before we get a little deeper into it.
Yeah, okay. Let me just say there's two things. The process has been baffling, but the outcome is not surprising, right?
Okay.
Once we knew that Kohli is giving up T20 captaincy, all of us kind of said it's just a matter of time. We thought that maybe the BCCI will give him the home ODI World Cup next year to be able to, or in 2023 actually, to be able to make his name, make a mark, and leave a legacy behind. But it wasn't to be, right? So as we have it now, we've got we had two white ball captains, and now we've consolidated that. So yeah, Ashwin, it's been surprising. I would say the process is surprising, but the outcome was expected.
I think that's interesting that he said, because I don't think that outcome was well, maybe it was expected, but I don't think it was desired. And I don't think it's a secret that most of us all three of us on this show at least are Kohli fans, not at the detriment of Rohit. I think exceptionally highly of Rohit, both as a batsman and a captain. But I don't like the way the process was handled, right? Like you said, essentially last Wednesday, the BCCI came out with a statement without any real reasons that the selectors had decided that Rohit would take charge of both the ODI and T20
And no
teams going
mention of
forward.
Kohli.
No mention of Kohli. And by the way, Rohit, I don't know if you missed this one, but Rohit has replaced Rahane as the vice captain of the Tests.
Yeah.
So another really interesting move, which of course Rahane being a real favorite player of yours, right? I'm sure has upset you quite a lot. But let me ask you about Ganguly's specific statement that said, hey, once Kohli decided to step down from the T20 captaincy, we felt we needed to have one captain for the white ball format.
Yeah. So
right?
What he said is that we asked Kohli not to step down. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the first
from
thing.
T20s.
Yeah. We asked him not to step down. He said, I want to step down. He then stepped down. He then gave up RCB captaincy, making a signal to the world that I've given up out of the four formats, or let's call IPL a format. Out of the four formats that I captain the team in, I'm giving up two, and I'm signaling to you that I'm focusing on the other two. With that, Ganguly has now come out and said it is not wise to have two different white ball captains, right? And so the minute Kohli stepped down, this was always in the pipeline. He also apparently gave Kohli 48 hours to resign, and Kohli did not resign. So there is some bad blood there, and there's more than meets the eye. Two interesting things. One, under the BCCI's leadership, the women's cricket team has two
Yeah,
separate
that
white
was my
balls.
first question. Mithali and Harman,
So
right?
yeah, so they have two
Come on.
separate. So you're going against all sorts of kind of logic there. And then the second is Kohli has a win record of 70% in ODIs, which I think is one of the highest all time. I don't know if Ricky Ponting's is higher, but I think that's one of the highest of all time. And when Ganguly was asked why have we done that when Kohli's is 70%, he said, yeah, well, Rohit has done well in the games that he has led India to. And I went and checked, and Rohit's win percentage is 80, but it's only 10 games. So,
Wow.
and I'm sure a lot of those are Asia Cups, etc., where Kohli has decided to, rest himself. So completely baffling, like I said. Like that's why I keep coming back to that same point. The process is the problem here, not so much the outcome.
Yeah, and so it seems like you're pretty happy with the outcome. Net.
I mean, look, I'll say this. I'm ready to see Kohli, the monster batsman, come back. Okay, that's what I want to see. That's what we all want to see. So let's hope that the same way I think Mitchell Johnson used to fire him up. Let's hope that Sourav Ganguly is firing up Kohli, the batsman, because we all need that more than we need Kohli, the leader. But yes, I would say he has captained India for one T20 World Cup, one Champions Trophy, and one ODI World Cup. When you look at other captains' records, I don't think any captain has won every ICC tournament they've played in. Yes, he should have won one out of these three in the last 3 years, 3 to 4 years. So he should have. But hey, who knows, right? There's another ODI World Cup at home. There's another T20 World Cup, and there's another Champions Trophy, all coming up in the next 3 years. So I think it's a stopgap measure for the BCCI. I think BCCI is very aware of the fact that they haven't won a trophy for 10 years. And yeah, I think it's fine. I think let Rohit be the guy to lift that trophy for India. And then post that, India will look to younger guys for the captaincy.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I agree with you. I think, again, bias acknowledged about how much I like Kohli, but the fact that he's got a chance at one T20 World Cup and he's only been ODI skipper for 5 years, right? It's unreal, the kind of expectations we set on him. But before we could spend the whole episode talking about this, and we have other things to talk about. Let me just ask you this, right? One of the things we have often said about why India is not performing as a T20 side at the level of other teams is because we think of T20 as an extension of the ODI game, right? We play the same guys. For as long as we were playing Dhawan, and you used to get annoyed at that, right? Like we weren't thinking about six hitters. Australia, West Indies, these teams were thinking about T20 and 50 as separate players, etc. Is this a continued signal from the BCCI by saying, hey, we should have the same captain? Why do you need to have the same captain? They're different formats, completely different skill sets. What's the meaning of saying you need to have the same captain? So is this a signal that we have not learned anything from this T20 World Cup and we're just going to keep playing T20 as a shorter 50 over format versus its own format?
Yeah, it's sad. I think it's not just the lack of picking that up. I think there's too much administrative headaches around having three captains in three different formats. I mean, just for Ganguly to be talking to three different guys, for the coach to be talking to three different guys. So like I said, I understand the thinking. Again, I don't know too many formats where they have three different captains, but there's been so much garbage around.
Well, we were still saying two, right? You could have had Kohli do Test and ODI.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. That's
right.
fair. Yeah,
so
yeah, you could have. Yeah, man, it's just a weird thing. I think it's better. I think it's better for Kohli to just kind of get out of this. I mean, look, that first Test match where we couldn't take the last wicket, right, against New Zealand, I have no doubt that if Kohli was on the field, we would have found a way to take it.
We would have just found that energy, right? Like
that energy, and versus just sitting quietly there. So I get it, man. It's not easy, but let him achieve greatness in Test cricket. Let him get back to greatness as a batsman in shorter format of the game, and it'll be very interesting to see how the Rohit Kohli dynamics work, because you can see them high-fiving on the field, but there's clearly more to it.
Yeah, I think that's as good a note to end this section as any. I think I'm personally a little bit disappointed, it's been a little bit difficult to deal with. It's caused, there've always been social media rifts or camps between Rohit fans and Kohli fans, and it feels like it's going to widen that gap a little. I think you summed it up absolutely right. I'm ready to see Kohli, the monster batsman, come back. And if this enables that and they're able to find a way to make it work, I think there was a Cricinfo article that ultimately said this is going to be an exceptionally delicate transition. But Dravid, Kohli, and Rohit are the three guys who can figure this out and manage the transition. So let's hope they can. Lots going on. That's a lot to start with, but we're going to pivot and talk a little bit about the India squad that's gone to South Africa, starting with the Test series under the captaincy of still Virat Kohli. But we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back to talk about that. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. All right, Varun, in sync with the news of the captaincy changing of the guard, all that, there was also news about India's squad, right? And so we started with Rohit Sharma is vice captain. There was a few changes, and I'll quickly run through them really quickly. But Rohit sat out, obviously, New Zealand because of workload. We also missed out Bumrah, Shami, and then Pant because of workload, and Rahul because of injury. They are all back in the squad, right? Jadeja, Akshar Patel, and Shubman Gill were not in the squad because of injury. A couple other quick things. Ashwin is in there. Without Jadeja, there Jayant Yadav has retained his spot as the second kind of spinner. Shardul Thakur is back as a quick. And Saha has maintained a spot as backup keeper, etc. And then really the big one that we've talked a lot, Surya Kumar Yadav has been left out, and Hanuma Vihari, after a stellar India Ace tour, has come back in. So I know I covered a lot. We can go down the squad and kind of discuss playing 11s, etc. But let's start with overall. How are you feeling about the squad?
Yeah, it's a pretty good squad. Remember, guys, this is the final frontier, right? For India. As it stands, we've beaten Australia in Australia. Why I said as it stands is because as of now we are beating England in England till next June.
I thought we've already won the series.
Yeah, we have won the series, and now it comes to South Africa, right? So this is as our best shot of winning in South Africa. It's never been done before. I have these memories of Sachin and Azhar just batting out kind of the whole of December, in 1997, because that they were just pushing forward this fight back, and still we used to lose very badly. So it's a great chance. Coming to the squad, I think no major surprise there, right? Obviously, Jadeja, Gill, and Akshar Patel are injured. So given that, I don't see any major surprise. I think what's happening is it's going to be a little bit harsh on players like Mayank and Shreyas Iyer, because they've both kind of hit centuries and created almost match-winning knocks for India versus New Zealand. But the way it looks is that they may not even get a game. And if it's at the cost of Vihari, I'm totally in favor of that. If it's at the cost of Rahane, I'm not in favor of that.
Okay, all right. So lots to unpack on that last one, but let's go through the order if we can. We do this on the show a lot. I haven't pre-worked this or prepped it. I have the squad in front of me. I assume you haven't either, but real time we'll discuss kind of what our squad would be. Right. So you have Rohit, Rahul, and Mayank as opening options. So is that you saying you think Rohit and Rahul will play?
Yeah, I think it's fair also that Rohit and Rahul play.
That's harsh. It's unfair on Mayank, man.
Yeah, it is unfair, man. But in scoring runs at home has never had the same has never had the same impact as reputation or credibility. So as a result of that, I think they will go with Rahul and Rohit. And why not? They're both in a purple patch right now. So it's great to know that Mayank is there and he will push them to perform better. And I think he could play one of the three tests. But I think they'll start with Rohit and Rahul.
Okay, so we got our openers. Then assuming Mayank is not in consideration for the middle order, you have Rohit, Rahane, Pujara, Iyer, and Vihari in line for, let's call it 3-4-5.
Yeah. So right? For me, again, I think Pujara and Kohli are 3 and 4, no doubt there. Okay. I think number 5 should be Vihari. That's the way I would. That's the way I would look at this setup.
Who do you think the number 5 will be?
I think the number 5 will be Rahane.
Really? So you think they'll go with him again?
Yeah. I don't know, man. The fact that they've picked him again and they just, Dravid has come out and saying we still haven't seen the best of him. Kohli has come out and talked about Rahane. So I don't know. I don't think he's done yet. But if this South Africa tour, playing him can mean the end of him, then maybe playing him is the best thing to do.
So that's the other thing, right? And so I don't know if I necessarily believe he's done. So he's maybe has, I don't look at the numbers. Maybe has the best record among top order batsmen, or sorry, the specialist batsman in South Africa, right? He's the only guy that stood up the last time we were out there. So I just think it's interesting that, yes, they didn't drop him, but I don't think you can go straight to dropping a vice captain. But they have stripped him of vice captaincy. And I think that's a big step, because part of the reason it was stressful in the last match before the injuries and all that was that it's very difficult to drop a vice captain.
Yeah.
So,
Agree. And I think you're right. That was telling, I should have caught on to that. That is a very telling sign that Rahane, from being captain one match ago, is now not even vice captain. So it's a telling sign, and things are not looking great for him. So I hope he puts in the effort at the nets. If he plays for India, I hope he comes good, but I don't see that future. And I think Vihari must play. Now the question comes is, do you play a 4-bowler strategy? Because what we have to accept is Ravindra Jadeja is actually the most valuable player for India, period. So without Jadeja, what do you do? And Pant is going to play for sure. So we've got...
So Pant at 6, let's say.
Yeah, let's assume Pant at 6. Then you've got a problem, right? Because Kohli likes bowling heavy attack, and you can't remember, you cannot fault him. Kohli has won everywhere.
Yeah.
So you cannot fault him for that. Now, why I want Vihari at 5 is because it gives a little bit more solidity than a Rahane. Rahane is just like a walking wicket, right? So Vihari, if he comes in, I think there's a case for Thakur to play at 7. Right? Shardul Thakur. Yeah.
Sorry, if Vihari comes in.
Vihari at 5, Pant at 6, and Shardul at 7. I think Shardul can bat, not as well as Jaddu, but he's just proved himself time and time again. So I think it'll be Thakur at 7, leaving us 3 quicks and Ashwin to follow.
Okay, so you do play Ashwin at 8, because my question was going to be, do you play 5 quicks and Vihari can bowl spin? It's South Africa after all.
No, I would play Ashwin.
Okay, so Vihari / Rahane 5.
Yeah.
Rishabh Pant 6, Shardul 7, Ashwin 8.
Yeah.
Gives us room for 3 more quicks. Your options are the usual suspects of Ishant, Shami, Bumrah, Umesh, and Siraj. And then we have Jayant Yadav there too, but it sounds like you said only one spinner. So let's leave him out.
So I think Umesh will always be the number 5 pacer in this attack. Okay. I think across the 3 tests, they are basically going to have to alternate Siraj and Ishant. Right? Okay. Ishant has been a great servant of the game for Test cricket, and he's very good right now. But Siraj creates the ability, has that ability to create wickets, and that's what Kohli wants. So I wouldn't be surprised if Siraj, Bumrah, and Shami start, and then you'll see a little bit of kind of workload management with Ishant coming in.
Got it. So Siraj, Bumrah, Shami, and Shardul, your 4-pronged quick attack with Ashwin as your 5th bowler, and Vihari potentially giving you an option. That's an interesting.
I also think a lot of the South Africans wouldn't have played Siraj too often in Test cricket. So I think that surprise element in the first Test could be very good.
I agree. I think Siraj will get a look. I don't know if he'll get it in the first Test. So just to quickly wrap this segment up, I think no disagreement on the top 4. I think Rahane will play at 5. They're not done giving him a chance yet. And he will make just like 49 or 50 runs, just enough to buy himself a spot in the next match. And then I think Pant Ashwin is the right play. I think Pant Ashwin Shardul at 7-8 is just strong enough. I don't think either of them is a full number 7, but both of them can probably fill the gaps for 7-8. And then I don't think Siraj will play the first Test. I think Ishant, they're going to go with the tested Ishant, Shami, and Bumrah for the quick bowlers. So it's going to be exciting though.
So your team sounds like Kohli and Shastri are coach. My team sounds like Kohli and Dravid are coach, I think.
Oh, that's interesting. All right. We have about 2 weeks to find out which of us is correct, and we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, first Test match kicks off Sunday, December 26th. It's not a great time zone for me at the moment, but Test cricket is Test cricket. It's going to be magnificent. So with that, I think that brings us to a wrap. Varun, let's quickly ask you, we have another week to do this potentially, but let me quickly ask you for a prediction. 3 Test matches, Centurion, Johannesburg, and Cape Town. For the final frontier as it stands, like you said, what is the prediction going to be?
I feel like I'm like giving the voiceover for a Star Sports ad, like the final frontier.
Perfect.
Yeah,
better than Maka.
2-1 to India.
2-1 to India. Look at that.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
This is it, man. This is Kohli's time.
This is it. Oh, it'll be phenomenal.
And also one telling sign that there's no T20. So I kind of like that. So guys, we've got 3 tests rescheduled. It was supposed to start on 17 December. And if you're like DJ, he taunted me when he said the test starts this Friday. And I was like, no, the test starts the following week on 26th. He was giving me shit. He's like, you run a cricket podcast and you don't know when the test starts. So for everyone who's like DJ, the test has been delayed. It starts on Boxing Day now, and there are 3 tests, 3 ODIs. And Ashwin, what I was saying is that they've cancelled the T20s, and let me tell you why I like that. It's because they know the T20 squad is different. So in the middle of COVID, they're probably not going to fly out 7 new T20 specialists, Gaikwad, Venkatesh Iyer, guys like that. They're not going to Ishan Kishan. They're not going to.
You still said it.
Yeah. So I think that part was good for me. So they're trying to find that demarcation, and in fact, they've just pushed that T20 series to later.
Yeah, I think well said. Excited. Your prediction is 2-1. I'm going to be a little less optimistic, and my prediction is going to be 1-1. So a little bit of a frustrating result for both teams, but it does mean we should be able to, get 1 win on the board at least, and leave the series with a draw. So I'm predicting 1-1. Right. With that, we're going to take another quick break. We'll be right back to talk about the Ashes and wrap up this week's show. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. Another week, another great test series going on. It's not India, but Varun, we talked about this a little bit, right? I mean, this might sound like a negative thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, because everybody who listens to this is within the circle of trust. England and Australia is just great to watch because one of them is going to lose.
Yeah,
exactly. And we're just happy to watch one of the sides lose. Yes, I know it means one of them winning, but I choose not to pay attention to that. I'm just excited that one of the teams I dislike the most loses, right?
Yeah, I think the best part is that one of them lose. The other thing is that your loyalty changes every day in a test match. So in the 5 days, I think I supported England 3 times and Australia 2 times.
Right? By supported England, you mean you cheered for Australia to lose? And when I supported Australia, we cheered for England to lose.
Exactly. That's it. That's pretty much it. And I realized why the Ashes is great is because you just want complete dominance by one side every innings. You don't want to see a well-balanced 350 being made, because that doesn't do anything for us as who are Indian fans, right? So yeah, I think you said it really well. Like, we love this because one of them is going to lose.
Let's talk a little bit about the game. So Australia comes in under a little bit of turmoil with Tim Payne, etc. But let's be honest, I don't think he was missed much either as a captain or a batsman. But Pat Cummins comes on as a new skipper. First time there's been a bowler in charge in a long time. All that. Is he the first ever bowling captain of Australia? Maybe the first ever. And
possibly, yeah.
Mitchell Starc gets Rory Burns, who I know we've talked a lot of negative about on this show. He gets him bowled on the first ball of the match. I mean, how incredible is that?
I mean, Starc is just making a habit of getting people in the first over or even the first ball. So if you think the best part about Starc is he didn't do anything after that.
No, but his impact because he got the first ball of the Ashes.
Always. He always does that. But yeah, man, I think it was a very disappointing innings from England. They got all out for 147. I mean, out of their top 5, 4 had single-digit scores. So you kind of have lost the match, or at least been put on the back foot there itself. I was very excited to see Ben Stokes. He's one of my favorite players, and he looked rusty. He looked like he hadn't played cricket for a long time, which is what it is actually. So disappointing, but I think two great things, right? One is Cameron Green got a wicket in his first over, because remember, he went wicketless in the India series. And so the Australians erupted around him. So that was great. Nathan Lyon has been stuck on 399 wickets for a long time. After the first innings, he still didn't get that 400. And Pat Cummins, captain, you always talk about 100 as a captain, when you start leading the side. He picked up, 5 wickets. So superb start for him as well.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. England was 4 for 29, ended up getting out at 147. And then David Warner, who had the nightmare, absolute nightmare of an IPL, and then won player of the series in the T20 World Cup. as his team lifted the trophy, ended up coming out making 94. Just a magnificent partnership between him and Marnus Labuschagne to basically surpass the deficit and cross England's 147 just with the loss of one wicket. I won't go through too much detail, but I want to just quickly ask you about the role of a number 5 batsman like Travis Head. He's blown hot or cold, but the truth is he does average above 40. He's been a pretty solid batsman over the year, but to come in and bat at a better than a run a ball to make 150, obviously probably took us back a little bit to Rishabh Pant and some of the feelings we like seeing, but how incredible, right? I would say, the team was doing well, but then had that little collapse. I think we were 4 for 29 or whatever that was, that collapse that got them to 4 for 195, 5 for 195. And so when you're at 5 for 195, England is starting to smell blood. Say, hey, if we can restrict them to a lead of less than 100 runs, we might still be alive. And then Travis Head just comes in and bats Australia back into the game. Like, how important was that innings?
Yeah, that was the innings that changed the game, because England not only started to pull them back, England also batted very well on day 3 of their second innings. So when you think of those two different factors, the difference was really Travis Head. Also, just quick call-outs, right? Warner had many chances. I think he had 5 chances overall in his innings. Labuschagne is a fantastic batsman and just getting better. But once you got Steve Smith out, there is no batting lineup left, right? Travis Head, Cameron Green, Alex Carey. Between them, probably under 5 tests, or 5 to 10 tests between them.
Travis Head has played more than that.
Really? Okay, that's good to know. But
20 tests. Okay, still not.
Yeah, 10. Yeah, but I mean, Cameron Green has just started against India. Alex Carey obviously has not been in the scene because of Tim Payne. So not that much experience between them. So that's why I give him all the more credit. He did extremely well. And this is how to cement your place, right? Like, I don't know who Australia's number 5 has been for a long time, but I think after this innings, it's safe to say he kind of did a Matthew Wade, right, in the T20. Similar, cemented his place. Yeah. So overall, the minute they got past 350, I think it was game over.
Yeah, and they ended up getting 425. England came out, actually showed some pretty good resistance between Malan and Root putting up a 160-odd run partnership. At one point, you thought England might fight back. They just got to 297, get themselves a 20-odd run lead, and then Australia came up and finished it off. So big win. Obviously, the fortress at the Gabba that was once just recently breached has become a fortress again. And then, kind of, not to break everything about India, but kind of brings back just how unbelievable India played during that match against the Aussies at the Gabba.
Yeah, I saw highlights of that game again, but also the Australian media has now come out and saying it's still Fortress Gabba because they've never lost against England.
Oh, great. Perfect, right?
So they've just changed the narrative.
Just marketing spin. Let me ask you one thing that I didn't ask you before we started previewing this game, which was at one point while England was bowling, while Australia was making 425, the two guys who were running out drinks were Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad. Talk to me about that, right? Anderson was publicly left out beforehand, but Broad was named in the 12, and then Broad didn't get selected as one of the 11. He's since come out and said he was disappointed, but obviously does what's right for the team. They have over 1,000 wickets between them?
More? Yeah, over 1,000 wickets.
It was shocking. Was that a surprise to you? Okay.
Yeah, it was shocking because when you talk about workload management, it doesn't mean that you don't play any of your top 2 in the opening test where taking an advantage is important. Mental games start at the first test match. I totally understand Jimmy Anderson being rested for the pink ball test, which I believe is next. And so I get that, but to not play Broad as well, it was a little bit shocking. Now, workload management is a topic that everyone has been talking about. So maybe England has got something up their sleeve. Maybe they know it's a long series. Maybe they've taken a cue from India's last 2 tours there, where Australia always starts off well, but they lose steam as the series goes on. And remember why? Because they don't do workload management. So it's an interesting one. But by after test number 3, if Pat Cummins, Hazelwood, and Stark are still bowling after 3 tests, they're going to lose steam. Yeah. And in fact, that's a good segue into the last point, which is Josh Hazelwood has apparently is not going to play the next test. I don't know if it's injury or workload management.
Yeah, I think it's injury, and a lot of people have been calling for a while for Michael Nesser to play. I don't know a ton about him, but he's been making waves in the domestic scene and playing well for Australia's whatever it's called, Australia A team. So we will definitely see, it seems like, one change in the quick bowling. But yeah, fascinating that even without Jofra Archer, Broad and Anderson didn't make the cut. I mean, it does tell you about how unbelievable Ollie Robinson has been. I don't think you could leave him out, but potentially choices with Mark Wood, Chris Wokes, and even Jack Leach. But next test match starts in just a couple of days' time. Very exciting. I think that brings us to a wrap. Varun, I don't think we got a chance to do this, but let me ask you for an Ashes prediction. 5 test matches. Obviously, it's 1-0 already. It's a little cheap. But what do you think this is going to end up at?
I think it's probably going to be 3-1 to Australia.
Okay. My prediction was 4-0 Australia. So I don't see.
Oh, wow.
I don't see. I mean, you don't have openers who can bat. I can go on for days, but I don't see England as having a threat. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they do, but I don't see this. I don't see the England side posing a real threat.
Yeah, don't forget Joe Root, Malan, Stokes, Butler. So there is enough firepower there. It's just that can they come together? Have they not? When was the last time they did well together successfully in Test cricket? Yeah. That'll be a challenge.
Agree. And that brings us to a wrap to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. Varun, thank you for joining me. For our listeners, as always, at One Tip One Hand, Facebook, Twitter, etc., leave us a review. We love reading them. We love hearing them. And we love engaging with all of you. So have a wonderful rest of the holiday season. Let's go Team India to pull up a win against South Africa. And we will see you soon.